Today we will be working on learning how to make this cute little Farmhouse Rustic mini hat ornament. But first, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. If this is your first time here and you don't want to miss out on any further DIY craft videos from me, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button down below and notification bell for future updates from my channel, FaithChick777's DIY by Design. Now let's get started. So what I've got here is a cute little mini rustic farmhouse or Farmhouse Rustic hat ornament. We've seen these kind of little mini hat ornaments at like Walmart and Dollar Tree, and of course they are okay, but we're gonna make ours a little cuter. Anyway, so what we can start with is I've got two options here, okay? The base that I started with were these, and you can find them at Hobby Lobby. Excuse me, you can find them at Hobby Lobby. They're $1.99. There's the little code for them if you want to search for them, and of course get them on sale. Or if you don't have a Hobby Lobby near you, you can go to Dollar Tree and get hats like this. Now this of course is a couple of years old. The newer hats now actually I think have a burlap bottom and a little bit of a cute plaid on top. And like I said, by all means these are cute, but we are going to make ours cuter. But if you get one of these, then you just kind of tear tear all the decoration and stuff off, and then you've got your base to work with. It's already kind of done for you, and you just cover it up, okay? So, but what we're going to learn is if we are working with a base like this that we got from Hobby Lobby. Now, the first thing that you need to do, of course, is we don't need this. We're going to make our own little hook, so just kind of gently pull that out. There we go. Leave a little hole. And then what we need to do is make a pattern for the top, around the sides, the bottom, and then the top of that brim there. So real easy. We'll just kind of go through the motions. I've cut a few already. Okay, so real easy. First thing you want to do, obviously, pencil, paper, just trace around the perimeter of the top, which is now on bottom. Okay, easy. We're going to trace the bottom. Okay, real easy. We'll get to this part in a minute. And now let's do the top. And I know you're wondering, I kind of did this a way that I could figure out. Maybe there's a different way, but this is what I did because, obviously the bottom is skinnier than the top. And how do we get that angle? Because if we just try to wrap fabric around it, it's not going to work. So what I did is I measured the top. And so it's just about 2.5 inches. Okay. And then I'm going to come along here and get another piece of paper. Because I'm not sure how much, I'm going to need. I mean, I do now, but, just for purposes here. And make a few lines down the long edge of the paper at the 2.5 inch mark for this particular hat. Okay. And then kind of make our trace all the way down. I know I'm a little off screen, but I'm sure all of you know how to do this. Use a ruler, paper, and a pencil is what I'm talking about. Okay, and then we're going to cut that at that line. Okay, and then I'm going to go in and make sure that that's the right height. That's perfect. It's a little bit big. That's okay. But see, if you try to wrap it and you go to wrap like fabric, you'd end up with something like that not covering right. And then how, to figure out your pattern, that just doesn't work for me. So then what I go do is I just, a couple, I don't know even how big that is, inch and a half. I'm just going to make some little strips out of that 2.5 inch piece of paper we cut. Okay, we're just going to make little strips. Yeah, those are just a little over an inch. little strips. They don't have to be straight. We're going to make ourselves a pattern to make a pattern. I know that sounds funny. A pattern to make a pattern. Okay, now this is what I did. Oops. I've got some Scotch tape here. What I'm going to do, you're going to just kind of have to hold and tape. So take one of your pieces you cut and put it down to the bottom, touching the brim. Okay? And hold it there. Then take the next piece you cut down to the bottom of the brim, overlap that first piece. Okay? And then tape it. Right? Kind of holding and taping. Best you can get. Alright. And then keep going around. See, and once we start taping, to see how that bottom's already kind of coming up off of that, right? So, what we're going to do is take our next strip, we're going to overlap it enough that we overlap where that bottom piece of paper is starting to come up. It's not right. So overlap it almost all the way, because what we're trying to do is we're overlapping is we're trying to keep our paper a straight line as it's touching the bottom of that brim, okay? And tape. Now you can see here, if I was to wrap that around again, see, we're starting to curl up. We don't want that. Come around again, bring your next piece of paper down. You're almost covering half of the previous piece of paper. And as you're covering it, you're keeping this next piece of paper flat down to the brim. So as it's covering it, it's almost slanted on the previous paper. Do you see what I'm saying? I hope that's it. See, as I'm covering it and keeping my piece of paper, that bottom edge flat against the brim, it's slanted on the piece of paper previous, okay? So your object is to keep that next piece of paper flat on the brim, but overlapping the next one, okay? You're probably, overlapping about half. And you're going to keep doing this process till you come around and meet the first one. So we'll keep doing that. We're almost there. Keeping it straight. It's overlapping. Taping. See, that one really comes up. We don't want that. Getting our straight edge. Overlapping and taping. Now we should have one more piece. Perfect straight edge. It's overlapped on both sides, but just tape the one edge. I don't want you to tape both edges. Okay? Overlapped. Okay, now we're going to pull it off. So now we have this funny looking thing here. But what it has done, it has given us a narrow bottom to fit the narrow part of the hat and a wide top to fit the wide top of the hat. So as you put your fabric on it, it's going to fit just right. And then what I did is I came along and I trimmed it. So the first two here are fine, so I'm going to just trim off all these little kind of corners that are peeking off. So just kind of trim it to the next corner. Just trim off all those little corners. Okay, and then what I did is kind of made a new pattern. That might be overkill, but it's what I did. So let me bring my camera back out a bit. So then I trace this again so that I didn't have all this hanging. I mean, you could tape it if you want, and that's probably a good idea. Just tape it, but I wanted a nice looking pattern, if I can trace nicely. Okay, so then you cut it out and you have this nice looking pattern. Okay, so that's what I have here. One nice looking pattern. Thinner at the bottom or shorter, longer at the top. So that's what's going to make our fabric fit around this base of the hat there, the bottom of the hat. Okay, and so then I've got my little circle and my big circle, so those are already cut out. Okay, second circle. Now, I'm going to backtrack a minute because what we're going to do next works for this hat, okay? If you bought one of these at Dollar Tree, after you've taken all the decor off, you definitely want to take this off. You need to take the bottom, the brim off of this, okay? These are actually easier to work with because for us that are using these, we have a separate step. But there you go. And then your circle, when you cut your fabric, you just need, you know, for here and here to fit, okay? And don't worry about that because what you can do is just make a little hole in your fabric and then, you know, poke it through on there, put your fabric on, then you're going to glue your hat back on and you got your fabric on the top, bottom of that, or the top of that brim, okay? So that's what you're going to do if you use these Dollar Tree hats. You're going to pull that top off of this and then you're just going to make 2 circles this size. For those of us that are doing this, we have 1 extra step, okay? And here's the step. What I do is, I've got the hat here, I'm going to lay this circle on the top, okay, and I'm going to press against, what I'm doing is pressing against the edge of this circle, okay? Press against the edge so that you see where that circle is. You get an indent, okay? You see that indent, and then you're going to cut that circle out, okay? Come around, cut that circle out. Okay, got our circle cut out. There you go, all right? So that way, what we have here is this is the portion for our bottom cap. You do not cut out the circle, okay? I want to be clear on that. You have 1 full circle not cut out for the bottom, and then you have a circle with the hole cut out for the brim, okay? And then what you want to do is you just want to make a little slice. All right, I use this same piece for top and bottom. I just know that once we get to it, I'll show you, you know, don't cut out the circle for the bottom part. And that way this on our fabric will fit around this brim. And right now it doesn't look like it's going to fit, but I promise you it will because we have fabric and it's more stretchy than paper, okay? Because this is our exact size. So when we cut the fabric, it will pull and stretch, okay? So we have this, this, and this, and we're ready to cut our fabric out. Now the fabric I used was quite thin, so I am actually cutting 2 of each one of these, okay? And actually already did because the fabric is thin. If you have a thicker fabric, then you just need 1. I am using this fabric for this tutorial, but it's very thin, but I got it at Walmart, so I am cutting 2 of each piece. So see, our bottom piece is whole, no hole is cut out, okay? Then our next piece, I've cut it, the circle out, and made the slit, okay? Again, there's 2 of them, all right? The top piece, I've got 2 little pieces for the top. It's like I have to prove to you I have 2. Okay? And then for the side, I use this pattern and again cut out 2 of those. Okay? Now what I like to do, so let's get to decorating this thing. Oh, and 2 more things. 2 more things. Contrasting fabric, cut out just a little square, and it's like 1.5 inches, 1.5 by 1.5 inches, cut out 1 little square. And then another contrasting fabric, I like to do 2. This piece of fabric here is about 14 inches long, 14 inches long. And I haven't finished cutting it, so I could show you in about 1 inch wide. So you're going to have 1 inch wide by 14 inch long strip. Okay? Contrasting fabrics. And if you buy, like I have about 4 fabrics I'm using on these hats, 4 different patterns. interchange all those patterns. So if you have about 3 or 4 different fabrics, just interchange the fabric for the hat. So like on one hat, I might have this stuff, and then this is going to be, and this is going to be my contrasting fabric. Do you see what I'm saying? So, you know, 3 or 4 fabrics for your hats, or all one, but you're still going to need, you know, some contrasting fabrics. All right? So one of those. Now, the next thing we're going to do is I like to distress the edges of my fabric. So you just pull the ends off. You can take your fingernail, pull the ends off. Okay? And it should just kind of give it a nice little frayed edge. And some of the fabrics, you don't even have to pull it all the way off. And I'll show you when I get to that next fabric. So we're just making some nice frayed edging. Okay? This is what's going to kind of give us our little bit of a rustic look. If it gets hard to pull off, I just leave that piece hanging off and I start and pull from somewhere else and get it off. All right, so we have this done. And then we're going to come on to this piece here. This was actually the edge of the fabric, so it's already got a nice pull for me to start. Okay. Pull. There we go. All right. And in this next fabric, I just do 2 at a time. It doesn't matter because there's 2 because it's so thin, so really the one side isn't going to show, so if it doesn't get frayed as much as the top piece, that's okay. And you're kind of going in a circle, so it's a little bit hard, but I just take my fingernail and I just kind of pull on the edge. I don't even try to pull strings off. I just take it with my fingernail and I pull. Grab it and pull, grab it and pull. Okay, sometimes pieces will come off, sometimes they won't. Grab and pull. And it'll just make some little pieces come off. See? And it's just got some little, that's all it needs. Just a little bit of distressing. And we're going to do that on all of these. And sometimes you just pull a finger and kind of turn your fabric as you go. It'll just kind of do it. It just does it because it's nice and thin. See that? So I'm going to finish those on the next pieces. Okay, and when you get to this one, you know, if you're working with the Hobby Lobby hat, you just really need to fray the outer edges. You don't need to fray there. You don't need to fray there. Okay? Now, let's get on to the next step. Inside the center, we need to put something. We're going to make our own little hook because we pulled that string out. And then I just have a little tiny hook because then what we'll do is put one of those decorative looking S hooks that you can get from Walmart and Dollar Tree inside of that for hanging on your tree or for selling, which of these will be at, you know, my craft bazaar, Christmas craft bazaar. So we're just making a tiny little hook. But I need something in here for the hook to sink into. Okay, so what I have, these are from Dollar Tree and you get multiple sizes in them. You just need some styrofoam basically is what I'm saying. But what's nice about these, you get kind of a small, medium, large. The medium is kind of just right. But, you know, if you don't have those, you know, just take some styrofoam, cut a piece to fit. This is the big ball. I cut in half and then cut a little piece off one end. Okay? And then what you want to do is just take a little bit of glue. Let's see, how am I going to... Let's see... I don't know where it's going to land, so since I cut this piece, you just want to put some glue on it because we want to make sure that this sticks to the inside at the top of that hat there. If you end up using just this right perfect size, you just need to kind of glue one in and drop it down in like that. But we are using a cut piece. Okay. Squish it and get it in there nice and tight. There we go. So it's kind of glued down in. Okay, and then what I like to do, I like to take just a little piece of this like stuffing and put inside just so that there's like no movement in here. I mean, that styrofoam is going to be cut down and of course glued down, so it shouldn't move, but this is just to sort of take up a little bit more space. Okay, Now, the next thing we need to do is what I did is, even though I am putting fabric on top of this and you cover it, and maybe you want to put cotton like this kind of all the way to the top of the hole, that's going to kind of look poofy under there. And I don't want that. So what I did is I just cut a circle. Now you can take your pattern piece that you cut and cut the same size circle on top. That's fine. I just cut a little smaller piece. It didn't matter. And then we're just going to cover the bottom. Okay. And again, with your Dollar Tree hat, you don't have to do any of this. So we're just going to kind of cover that bottom. Just like that. Okay. All right. And I cut a smaller circle because this cardboard is so thin. Like if you use cardboard from a cereal box or something, if your cardboard's thicker, you may want to cut all the way to the edge. All right, so let's get to covering. Now, forgot to mention, you also need one more strip that is the same as the main fabric of your hat, about 1 inch wide, about 12 inches long. You won't need the whole thing, but one more strip. You don't need to worry about fraying the edges or anything, because what we're going to do is we're going to cover this outside edge of this hat, because when we put the fabric top and bottom, then you might be able to see that little edge. So we're going to cover that. So what I do is I'm just going to go ahead and glue just right along the edge on the bottom, around the edge on the top, and then I even like to do just, you know, kind of a little bit along the actual edge. Okay, and the glue I am using, one moment please. Those of you might be kind of new to my channel. This is Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. You can find it at Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann's Craft. This is great for fabric. It works for anything. I use it on everything, but this is Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. Okay, you have enough room or enough time to work with it, but it sticks like crazy. But, you know, I mean, a little time. You've got to be quick, but you have enough time to work, okay? So, and here, how long ago have I glued that and I'm still talking? I haven't put the fabric on yet, so that's how much time you have to work. So take the strip, we're going to cover it. I'm just going to kind of come around, you know, around. You can kind of see a little seam on this, just somewhere. It doesn't matter. Let's say the back of your hat, and we're just going to start easiest first to push it along that actual edge, this edge. Okay, push it along all the way. Okay, when you get to the other end, so see, there's about an inch you're cutting off or so. Cut that off, about 1.5 inches that I don't need. Okay, cut that off, and then you can go and press it, both sides, top and bottom. Okay, so we've covered that little edge. And then that piece I cut off, I'm going to come add another little, right at the tip here, I'm going to add a little bit so it glues nice. And then sometimes, not all the time, but you know, you can also come in here if you want to add a little bit more glue around the outer perimeter just to get that fabric to lay down a little bit better. There you go, you can do that too, just like that. And then the same thing on the top. Okay. Just put a couple dabs here and there and get that to lay down a little bit better. All right. Okay. We're moving right along. Let's go ahead and get our bottom piece on. That's nice and easy. Since I have 2 pieces, I'm going to glue one and glue the other. The bottom piece, like I said, if you have a thicker fabric, you only need 1 piece. The bottom piece, I'm going to go ahead and kind of glue all over. But this fabric is, since it is so thin, the glue, you know, it's wet and it kind of likes to shine through a little bit. You have time to kind of move your fabric around. I actually like this thinner fabric because it kind of stretches nice when you're working with it. That's where I talked earlier, there are these little middle pieces where the paper didn't look like it fit. These will fit because it's kind of stretchy. Okay, and I don't mind that little end hanging off. That lends to the rustic of it. Now the top piece, I'm just going to use a light all the way around, just a nice light touch. You don't really see it, but I'm always afraid you do, because see, here's our other one. You don't see the glue from underneath once it dries, but it's so wet and I can see it through this. I keep thinking I'm going to be able to see it through this. So I just do a nice little dab all the way around. That's plenty to hold it. Kind of stretch it where you need to, and we have our bottom piece on. Okay? All right, let's do this piece. We're going to do, again, one piece at a time, so the bottom piece doesn't really matter how it lays. So let's go ahead and I'll tell you what I'm talking about in a minute. Let's go ahead and glue around the edge here, and then around here on that actual cardboard of the hat. Okay, pick a spot where this seam comes together. I am going to make that where it comes together. That's going to actually kind of be the side of our hat, and let me explain that. So see how this is? My seam here is actually here on the side, so that the seam part where you're meeting the ends together gets covered up with all the decor. Because a lot of people want to tend to put it to the back and then match the seam from the back of the hat. But I don't do that. So when I wrap this, I'm wrapping the seam on the side. So for right now, it doesn't matter where you come together, but know when we go to put our decorations, that's your side seam. So I hope that's understandable. So for now, we're just going to get this on there. You're going to pull it tight. See, that paper didn't fit. I actually haven't pulled yet. Now I'm going to start to pull, and now it fits just fine on the fabric. See, you just lay it on there and then pull. And as you lay it on there, that inner part of that small circle will automatically just kind of lay up on the hat a little bit. See how I just laid it on, like didn't think about it, and it just kind of all by itself just kind of lays up onto that hat a little bit, and we want that. Okay, here's our little seam over here. Now I'm going to do the next fabric. The next fabric, we really want to make sure it kind of lays up there, just because we want that little lower portion to make sure it's all covered there. Okay, again, we want to find with this fabric, it's actually, there it is, kind of hard to find the seam, because we want to match our seams up. Bring it around. So when you're bringing it around, this is where it's going to be hard to kind of film. And where's my seam? There it is. Make sure you're kind of laying it down so that, see how it's kind of on the hat, so that when you lay it down, it kind of stays laying up on the hat. So just make sure it's like that, okay? Make sure basically it doesn't get tucked under as you roll around, because it could get tucked under and you don't want that. Make sure that inner seam's kind of laying up on that hat part. Okay? And then now I'm going to stretch the fabric a little bit. Works perfectly wonderful. This one I didn't quite get laid on right. There we go. Okay. Press it down. So we have that inner seam laying up on the hat a little bit. Here is our side seam. Okay. So now when we go to do this part of the hat, I'm not going to match up the seam of this with this, okay? I'm going to actually turn it and make sure this is on the back side. This is now the side of our hat, okay? Understandable? All right, and for this, I'm just going to kind of go ahead, because it's a big piece. It's easy. Glue it a little bit on here. And yes, you could have done this on the other ones, but I like to make sure I just kind of get that first layer down in the right spot. I know, you're like, you could have done that from the beginning, and I could have, and I just thought of this. But I don't know why on these, because I'm using two fabrics, I like to lay one down, then the next down, but this I'm just going to, sake of video, glue together. Now, let's start gluing. I'm going to go ahead and add glue all on this first. A little bit down on that fabric down there. Okay, and I'm going to check where my side seam is over here. And you're just going to lay this, let's see, which one is my more distressed side? They're both pretty distressed, but I'll go this way. So I'm going to lay this seam to the back, and we have our side seam. So I hope you can see it okay. I'll go like this. That better? I can see my side seam over there, so that's all right. Yep. So I'm laying this down. My side seam is right here. I'm going to lay this right down to the edge over the top of the little lip of that fabric. Okay? There we go. And then just pull one side around. All right? And then pull the other side around. And you can see it's going to overlap a little bit. That's perfectly wonderful. We want it to have a little bit of an overlap so we can hide the raw edge of that other piece, right? There we go. Now we have the back of our hat. Okay. Here's the side of my hat on the brim. The back of my hat. See that? This will get covered. I'm leaving all of this. Actually, no, I'm lying. I'm taking that little piece off. I'm leaving all of this overhang. It's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put my top on. How much time? Okay, 6 minutes on this card. And we'll switch to another camera card. I knew I was getting close. Okay. Get the one piece laid down. The other piece laid down. And the reason I leave that little bit of an overhang, number one, because it's rustic, and number two, remember on the bottom we covered that edge. We didn't cover it here. So by having that little bit of an overhang, and as you glue, kind of pushing it together, it covers any cardboard on that hat that might get seen, and now it just looks nice and rustic. Okay? Now, let's move on to the next thing. I know, right? It's so cute. So we're going to take our little long strip, and what this is going to become is our cute little bow at the bottom of our hat. So find, it's kind of hard, there it is, kind of hard on this check fabric. Find your side view, because we're going to wrap it around and have our bow come off on that seam right down there. Okay? And this is a lot more fabric than you need. I just like to cut off excess. Okay, so just kind of lay it on the bottom best you can. Just right down close to the edge, as you can see. Over to this side. I'm not going to glue it or anything. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to meet where that seam is, and I'm just going to tie this into a little knot. Actually, one edge is a little shorter. I want to kind of make sure I have even on both sides. There we go. It's at the bottom. Now I'm going to just come in and tie a half knot first. You're going to have to pull it kind of together. And this fabric is actually a little bit thicker. Now I'm going to make one more knot. Now when I make that knot, I don't want my knot really huge, and I want my fabric to come out right. I don't want it to look like that, right? I want my fabric to have this part be out right first. So I'm going to kind of made my half knot, and I'm going to kind of pull that back together again, those ends back together, and I'm going to kind of fold each end in half and fold it in half, and then I'm going to tie my knot. Tie it really tight as you can get it so you don't have too big of a knot. There you go. And now by folding it in half, then we can just kind of turn, and we have our little thing on the end. And what's nice about this area is going to be nice for tucking in our decoration behind that knot. And then I don't need this that long. I don't want it that long, so I'm going to probably just come and cut about an inch or so off that side. Kind of cut enough to match on that side, probably 1.5 inches. And now we've got, kind of twist that, do you get it right? We've got a little edge hanging off where that side seam was. Okay? Okay, so let's begin to decorate our hat. First thing, remember I told you contrasting fabric for the square. This is just a little bit too close for me, so I cut a different piece for my square. Now what we're going to do with this is I have a little rusty tiny safety pin and a little rusty tiny bell. I have a video on how to rust these. You certainly don't have to rust these. You can just buy normal tiny little bells at Walmart or Dollar Tree or something like that. Normal little safety pins. You don't have to do anything to them, but I chose to rust these, okay? And I also have rusty wire as well that I'm going to be using. All three of these, I show you how to do them in the video. I'll have the link down below and probably pop up right here. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to slide on whatever safety pin you have to use, and whatever bell, you're going to slide the bell onto that little safety pin. Okay, and then you're going to slide it on, not slide it on, poke it through somewhere in the center of your little 1-inch square. This is just our decoration for the 1-inch square. Okay, there we go. Look at that, all done. First thing, easy enough, let's glue this little square on. Get that right out of the way. Okay, and then we're just going to find the center of our hat, the front, in the center. I like to kind of have my bell at the bottom. And just kind of right in here, however you want to put it on, slanted, straight, whatever. Put your little piece of cute little like patch. It's like we have a little patch of fabric and bell and safety pin. Okay, now next thing I'm do is your wire, whether you cut wire or use regular wire, or make some rusty wire. I'm going to get 2 pieces, probably about 4 inches long or so. And I'm going to curly cue them up on the end of a paintbrush. Almost. You can leave a little tail. We'll use that for gluing. Do the same to the other one. Just kind of wrap it around. Leave a little tail for gluing. Okay. Got 2 little pieces of wire. From my yard, I have a couple of little cones here, pine cones. They're not really pine cones, but calling them pine cones. If you don't have those in your area, Walmart does have in their mini ornament section they're 24 to a pack, little pine cones. And in this case, because they are a little bit bigger, I would probably just use 1, okay, per hat. But I've got 2 because they're from my yard and they're tiny. All right. Also, I have this that I get from Hobby Lobby. They're little beaded berries. You can get any kind of little berries you want. Beaded berries picks from Walmart. You look little berries. Perfect. This is what I'm going to use. And then I also got this from Hobby Lobby. Okay, it's a great, they have them in their section with all their big, long, like tree looking picks. It's kind of got little ice snowy on there. But Dollar Tree, you can buy the little picks there, and they have like this on it with a little bit larger pine cone and usually a cute little present or something in there. That works perfectly fine. You can just cut that off of one of their picks. So any pick that you can find, Dollar Tree, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, doesn't matter, just something that has a little bit of greenery on it. Got a little piece already kind of cut off here, but I'm going to cut a little more off of that end, maybe a little bit more than that. Heavy duty wire cutters, because this is pretty hard wire. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, now you can use Fabri-Tac, which works fine, or you can use your hot glue if you want. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit of glue here, and then I'm going to tuck it right into that little knot so it kind of covers it. And just tuck it right down in so it's kind of hanging off the side of your hat. And I will use my Fabri-Tac to show you that it does work, but I have my hot glue gun plugged in if I needed it, but I just use this perfectly wonderful. I'm going to tuck it right in. Hopefully you can see right into that knot. Just kind of pull your knot out a little bit since you didn't glue it, and then tuck that thing right in. And it'll cover up the bottom of that stem. There you go. It covers up the bottom of that stem. And just kind of arrange it so it lays a little flatter against the hat. And your stem's tucked in. Perfect. There we go. It could be a little big. We might trim it. I mean, like trim the leaves a little bit. And I think I will. Just trim it out to the side a little bit. There we go. Perfect. And actually, I might add a little bit more glue right down here where it kind of lays up against the hat so that it will lay up against the hat a little bit better. Hot glue on these picks obviously does work, but it can kind of melt the picks a little bit. It can melt the plastic of these. So there, that'll help lay that as soon as it tacks on, will help lay very nicely there. Okay, there we go. Now it's holding enough. And now we're going to just cut off a few of these little berries. I like to do them in like threes, so I'm going to cut off 3 little berries. And again, Dollar Tree has cute picks with berries on it. Those will work perfectly wonderful. I just have a fetish for these, so that's what I'm going to use. Alright, and we're going to first stick down our pine cones. I like to get those in place here. And this all is subjective and up to how you want to decorate. But I'm going to stick a pine cone right down at the base down there. And let's see if I want to put a bead in first and then another pine cone. Oh, yeah, I'll go ahead and put one of these has a little bit longer stem. I'll go ahead and stick the bead in first. Beaded berry. Kind of tucking it right down. You can move that pine cone a little bit. Tuck it right down in behind it. Go. Hopefully I wasn't off camera there. We'll get another pine cone in there, kind of right in front of that little bead. There we go, just like that. And again, if you're using the ones from Walmart, the smaller ones, I would just put 1 pine cone there. And then we're going to do another bead, beaded berry. I keep calling it a bead because it's a beaded berry. Another berry. And I'm going to stick this just kind of right up above that lower berry. Just kind of tuck it right in there. Okay. And then we're going to get one more at the base, a little more closer to our little greenery. Kind of back in here. Tuck it down in just like that. There we go. And then a couple of our wire. I'm going to kind of straighten that a little bit more. We're going to tuck our wire in kind of up and around those pine cones. I'm going to do one kind of close to the hat. And I know this is a long tutorial, but I hope it's worth it. These are super cute. Tuck your wire how you want it. Tucked it down there. And then I'm going to straighten this other little wire piece out. I think it's going to need to be a little shorter, so I'm going to squish it. And we're going to kind of put it right down below that first wire. Right kind of, maybe in between those pine cones. Just kind of right down in here so that kind of will stick off to the side a little bit like that. And I like when they're all smushy mushy. There we go. See that? Isn't that cute? I love it. So guess what? Our hat is finished, but now we just have to make the hook, okay? Look how cute that is. Got our little kind of bow in the back. And if you want, but you know, I'm selling these at Craft Bazaar. I want them to look cute, but not cost that much money to make, right? So to be able to sell, and I usually will sell them for like $3. Because a lot of you might be thinking that's a low price, but you have to take into account, you know, what are ornaments costing at like Walmart and that kind of thing. We all know they cost a little more at Hobby Lobby, but kind of look at that. I know this is more handmade and more, a little more to it than just, you know, the mass-produced ones, but I still try to kind of keep in a little bit with like those prices, but still adding more for my time and supplies used. So I run them about $3. Okay, and $3.50 would probably be good. Some of you might be able to even run them up to $4. So how we're going to make our little hook in the top, you're going to take another piece of wire. It doesn't matter, you know, it could be that rusty wire, which is what I'm going to use, but a lot of you, if you're just using plain wire, and you can get plain silver wire at Dollar Tree. I think some of them even come in a pack with like black wire. That would look perfectly cute using black wire on these hats. Silver wire, you want the smaller diameter, you don't want the great big thick floral wire, okay? So they have different colors there, so if you don't want to, you know, do the resting technique, and then just kind of fold that in half, okay? And just twist it nice and good. I've made a nice long area here. This is actually even a little bit bigger loop than my other one. That's perfectly fine, okay? And then what we're going to do is just take a needle, kind of guesstimate the center of your hat, because that's where, and actually I can feel where I pulled that string out. Center of your hat, poke it in. I don't know if you heard that. That's going into the styrofoam, okay? And then we're going to add just a little bit of glue, not too much, because when you go to poke this down in, you know, the glue's going to kind of go upward as you poke downward. So you just want a little bit. I just like to have a little bit so I know it's kind of going into that styrofoam as well, just a little more security. And then I'm going to poke it right down in that hole that I made the hole with the needle. You might have to do a little bit of twisting. Keep on twisting. There we go. There, and you can hear it going into the styrofoam. All right, and now we have a little hook on our ornament, nice and secure. It's stuck and glued into that styrofoam, and there is our finished product. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I know it's a little long, but sometimes these kind of tutorials, they need to be live and not just fast forwarded through so that I can explain a few things. Remember to subscribe to my channel. Come follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, my blog. Those links will be down below. Again, the link for resting the wire and the bells, the safety pins, will be down below as well if you're interested in that. Leave a comment down below and tell me what you liked best. You know, I mean, that's a great comment. What did you like best about this project? Do you like the rustic look of it, the farmhouse look of it? Is there something you would change? Do you have a better idea? By all means, let me know. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.